Hello everyone, and welcome to our sample rhetorical analysis essay video. In this video, I will go over some things to consider when you are writing your rhetorical analysis essay. Feel free to use this sample essay and this video about the essay when you are composing your own efforts. They are both online and both at your convenience. So let us begin. One thing you will notice right off the top is that the essay is in correct MLA format. At the top right corner of the essay, the student has his last name and the first page number. On the top left corner of the essay, the student has his full name, the professor's last name, in my case, in his case, my name right there, the class for which this was written, English 101, and then the date. Now this is a real student essay, so I have not done anything to this. This is what a student has really produced. I thought this would be very useful for us when we compose our own writing. We also skimmed through the essay and we can see that it is double spaced. We have 1-inch margins on all sides, and importantly, it reaches the 3 full page limit. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to highlight is the introduction, the first body paragraph of the essay. Similar to other introductions, it wants to not only provide background about the topic that the audience needs to know as they dive into the essay, but it also needs to provide a thesis which states what really the purpose of the essay is and what it's trying to prove over the course of its body paragraphs. So let us go through the introduction, and I will highlight some points that I feel should be mentioned. Okay, the first sentence says, President John F. Kennedy served his term during an unruly period involving major tensions during this nation's Cold War with the Soviet Union. He delivered a speech of reverence to the people of West Berlin on June 26, 1963, just 2 years after the wall was built. His speech serves as a memorable key to its destruction, as his charisma assisted in rallies and movements serving solely to break down the wall. In his speech, he primarily uses anaphora, pathos, and ethos. In doing so, he uses a plethora of rhetorical devices and appeals in order to build, strengthen, and ultimately develop his argument for wanting to inform the Berliners of the United States' policy toward the wall. So we'll see in the first 3 to 4 sentences that the student provides background about when the speech was given, what the context of the speech was, all this in order to kind of establish a direction for which the paper to present a purpose. And what is that purpose of the paper? Is to prove that Kennedy uses rhetorical devices and appeals in order to build, strengthen, and ultimately develop his argument for wanting to provide the Berliners information about how the United States is approaching the wall. So remember, the last sentence of an introduction doubles as the paper's or the essay's thesis statement. In this last sentence, you be sure to want to say what the speech is trying to accomplish. How is the speech using rhetoric to accomplish its purpose? And that is a key component to remember when you write the thesis. Now let's skip down to the second body paragraph. Now in this body paragraph, the student analyzes the rhetorical device, the classical appeal pathos. As you remember, pathos is the appeal to emotion. Now just as a regular argumentative essay, so too does a rhetorical analysis essay have a structure of a topic sentence, which is normally the first sentence of the body paragraph. Then it has examples or information or data in the middle of the paragraph to support that topic sentence, that opening sentence claim. And then the paragraph moves on to kind of explaining how that evidence proves that topic sentence, that claim. So let's look at what the student does here. In the first sentence, the student makes a claim about why Kennedy uses pathos. The student begins saying, Kennedy relies heavily on pathos throughout his speech, as without it, he would be unable to properly develop a strong bond between himself and the citizens of Berlin. So in the first sentence, our student here states that why Kennedy uses pathos is because he wants the citizens of Berlin to connect with him. And so he tries to connect with them through emotion because he realizes that they are human beings just as he is. And so this is why he wants to use pathos. So after the student provides his claim at the beginning of the body paragraph, he then moves in to examples of how Kennedy actually establishes this. He provides a quote, and he begins his sentence with, "Further in the speech, Kennedy begins to discuss the strong and positive qualities of Berlin and states that he, quote, knows of no town, no city that has been besieged for 18 years that still lives with the vitality and the force and the hope of determination of the city of West Berlin." So here, in this little section, the student provides an example of how he feels that Kennedy uses pathos. Now, not only has he provided a topic sentence, but he's also provided evidence. Now, the third thing he needs to do is explain how this evidence proves his point. If I just look at this quote, I don't know for sure that Kennedy is using pathos. It's up to the student or to yourself to show or explain, I should say, how Kennedy uses pathos. So we move on, and the next sentence says, through this, regarding the aforementioned quote, Kennedy builds an emotional bridge between the people of Berlin and himself. He shows them that he understands their issues regarding the placement of the wall and adds that he knows they can withstand its destructive qualities because he believes the people of West Berlin to be residual in their efforts to withstand the tyrant qualities of the wall. In addition, he shows that the people of West Berlin have an everlasting human spirit that has been attacked and berated for 18 years, and no matter the extent of their struggle, they will overcome it. So in the sections, three sentences that follow the use of the quote, the student explains how Kennedy uses that sentence and those words to really reach his audience, to build, as he says, an emotional bridge with the people of Berlin. So not only does he begin with a claim about how Kennedy uses pathos, he moves into an actual example of the language from the speech about how Kennedy uses pathos, and then he moves into explaining how that shows how Kennedy uses pathos. And one other thing we'll notice as we look through this body paragraph is that the student only relies or relies on only using one piece of evidence or classical appeal to prove his point. He's not just mentioning pathos and logos and different types of schemes or tropes or anything else that Kennedy might use to manipulate his audience. Instead, he sticks to just pathos, and he moves to the paragraph highlighting or explaining how Kennedy uses pathos. At the end, he mentions ethos, but this is more of transition to the next paragraph, which is about ethos. And so the majority of the paragraph is just about one particular classical device that Kennedy utilizes. This is something to consider when we write our own essays. We want to stick to one main idea that guides the entire body paragraph. If we look at the next body paragraph of the essay, we see that the student focuses only on ethos and how Kennedy establishes credibility. And we look through the whole paragraph and he doesn't point out anything else except for ethos. This helps him keep his audience focused on the idea of ethos, as the previous paragraph about pathos helped his audience stay focused on how Kennedy uses pathos. So when you go and organize your essay, you want to think about what rhetorical devices are the ones that are the ones that the speaker relies on most often to communicate his or her point. And as you analyze your speech and you look for the rhetoric present in that speech, we want to think about, okay, how can I organize my information in my essay so that it makes sense and that I have enough for each body paragraph to write. This will conclude our video about the sample rhetorical analysis essay. If, of course, you have any other questions or any questions in general, please do not hesitate to email me through our class email. Otherwise, have a great day.